What is up, everybody? I am here with you today breaking down UFC Vegas 72 Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. As you can see here, I've got my little cheat sheet that I constructed. Going to take you through that real quick. What I like to do is lay out every fight here. You can see the prelims, you can see the main card, you can see all of the fights. Then I like to go through and sort their wins by knockout and losses by knockout, submission, and decision on this chart. That helps me analyze what I think the fight will look like and thus ultimately make some picks. So I'm going to scroll down here to this first fight. I'm going to move my face over just a bit, and I'm going to tell you before we get started, you're going to see three categories. You're going to see a method bet. This is what I think is either the most likely result of the fight or what I think has good value. A round bet, this is just simply where I think the fight stops or does not stop, and then my best bet. Now, you may see some contradictions in these. You may see me pick somebody for method, and then my best bet may be the opposite fighter, and I'll talk about that when that time comes. So, first fight on the prelim card, we have Haley Cowan versus Jamie Lynn Horth. Both of these fighters are somewhat new, not a ton of fights to really analyze. Jamie Lynn, if we flip over here to Odds Jam, is the Jamie Lynn is the slight favorite here, and Haley Cowan, slight underdog. They're projecting this fight to be a full 3-round fight. Now, looking at this, what catches my eye is Jamie Lynn has 2 submission wins in her last 3 fights, and if we look at Haley Cowan, she's lost twice by submission. In fact, it's the only way she's ever lost. Here's the bad part. FanDuel right now, and any other book, does not have prelim method bets listed. So I cannot tell you what this price is, which is highly unfortunate because I want to take it. And if this is over 200, it's a slam. I don't know what it's going to come out at, but that's what I'll say. So right now, Jamie Lynn on the money line is minus 150 on DraftKings. That is where I will be taking it. So that's a look at the first fight. Second fight, we have, Marcus McGee and Journey Newsom. Now, Journey Newsom was supposed to fight Brad Kelleher, and I don't know what happened, but he is out as of the last 24 hours. So we got Newsom versus McGee. McGee likes to win one way and one way only, and that is by knockout. 6 knockout wins, 0 submission, 0 decisions. Been submitted once. That's the only way he's lost. Now, Journey Newsom, kind of a mixed bag here. We got 3 wins by knockout, 3 by submission, which caught my eye. I went back and looked. Only has happened in 2017. So in the last 5 years, he has no submission wins. So it doesn't really get a lot of my attention at that point. 4 wins by decision. So what I would like to do, again, no prelim odds on FanDuel, is sprinkle a McGee knockout at plus 500 if possible. This 6 wins versus these 2 losses, even though if we look at the money line here, Newsom is a sizable favorite, not massive, but decent. So I think these odds could be close to 500. If it is, it's worth a sprinkle. Otherwise, I will take over 1.5 rounds. I don't see Journey Newsom finishing this guy in under 1.5 rounds. So that is, if it's minus 150. Again, this is a fight that just came up. I mean, look, sorry if my head was in the way when I showed this. There are really no lines for this right now, but that's kind of where my head's at. All right, third prelim of the fight card, we have Stephanie Egger versus Irina Alekseeva. Forgive me on all these names. Again, a fighter who's very new on the scene in Irina. No knockouts, 1 submission, and 3 decisions. And facing Egger, who is... again, a pretty decent favorite here, minus 275 for Stephanie Egger. And for that reason, I mean, I wanted to go Irina money line just because you have these fighters that walk in kind of unknown against people who have maybe gained a little bit of prominence, and you see a lot of times the underdogs step up in these situations. I'm not going to recommend that though. So what I am going to recommend is over 2.5 rounds at minus 140. Again, if we look at their losses by finish, 0, 0, 1, 0. These chicks do not get finished very often. So so over 2.5 rounds is the bet that I would be placing on that. Fourth prelim, Cody Durden and Charles Johnson. We're finally getting into some more experience, which is helpful here. And the thing, again, that steps out at me is both of these guys do get almost a third of their victories by knockout, but neither of them get knocked out, which tells me that they have some pretty good sparring defense. Wins by submission. They're both all-around fighters, which does make this tough. The one weakness that we see in Cody Durden, though, is his submission defense. Now, what I should do for you is pull this up real quick and check and see how many of those are recent, and I apologize for not having this done already. Okay, so Cody Durden, 2022 guillotine choke and 2020 guillotine choke. So 2 of his last 5 fights ended by way of submission. And that is why Johnson's submission, if at plus 300, I think is good value. Again, FanDuel really, some book needs to start throwing out method props before Thursday afternoon, because I'm trying to make these videos and get them out to you guys. Otherwise, Johnson, I think, is the better fighter here. He is 140 on the money line. Flip over here to Odds Jam, 140 across the board here. So that is my pick there. Again, not incredibly confident. I do want to see what these lines are talking about when they are released. Fifth prelim fight, second to last prelim fight. We have Boudet versus Jake Collier. Jake, man, this tells it all to me. Versus this. So we'll keep it really simple for now, and we'll say Boudet knockout plus 100 if it's there, if it's around there, if it's more, take it. Otherwise, for 2 heavyweights, this caught my eye. 7, 10, 11 fights. 11 fights combined where heavyweights have gone the distance. Not something we typically see. We usually see heavyweights finishing before 3 rounds. So to see that many decisions and to see a guy who has not been finished yet in his career, that's why I like a distance bet at minus 105. So here's the quick explanation. I'm going to take some time here. I do not see Collier's finishing Boudet. All right. I don't think this is going to be his first finish. And I don't think Boudet is going to submit Collier, who has 5 wins and 1 loss. Okay, pretty good on the ground. So because of all of that, I see the only 2 paths of victory as Boudet knockout or the fight to go the distance. That's kind of where my brain goes when I'm looking at these 2 things. It's not completely safe, and that's why you have to watch your units carefully. I wouldn't suggest, throwing all your money at these 2 props and then something freak happens and he finishes them by submission, you lose both, and you're in my comments. But that's what I'm thinking for these 2 bets. Last prelim fight, we have Josh Quinlan versus Trey Waters. This fight was tough for me simply because we have a fighter who's 6-0 and a fighter who's 7-1. So not a ton of game film to see. If we look at the Odds Jam money line situation, maybe. It's deciding to not be responsive. Okay. So I can't actually tell you who's the favorite offhand. I think it's pretty close. Oh, so Josh, decent favorite, 175 versus 155, the best odds you're going to find. Trey, I was not convinced either way, but I do think for some middleweights, over 1.5 rounds at plus 100 It's just got to get out of the first round or half of the second for guys who have been finished once in their career. This fight, I think, will be hyped up because it's two fairly new guys, two guys who have put in some pretty impressive fights thus far. I mean, look at these decisions. One finished fight in 3, 6, and 6 is 12 fights, so 12 finishes versus one decision. And I think that's why we get this reaction. But when two guys come in and they're equal in that way, we see them kind of back off and we see them respect each other. So I think over 1.5 is a great bet to make at plus 100 for this fight. Main card, guys with the longest names in history: Waldo, Cortez Acosta, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Again, you got a guy who lives by the knockout and can get submissions versus a guy who doesn't get knocked out. You got a guy who loses by submission versus a guy who doesn't get many submissions. It doesn't line up for me in a way that I feel comfortable saying one way or the other. We do have De Lima at a favorite situation, but if he's the favorite, and this guy is a little bit newer, he's going to respect his power. So again, same principle on this fight and this fight. Two guys that are going to respect each other's power. Over 1.5 at minus 140. It is what I could come up with as far as bets for this. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. As far as units go, think of a method bet as a quarter unit or less. Think of a round bet as a half, maybe a full, and think of a best bet as I'm telling you, this is a unit play. I like this play. Okay. Second fight on the main card, we have Julian Erosa versus Fernando Padilla, and I'm reaching here a bit because Padilla's lines for the fight to end, let me see if I can, there's no method on Odds Jam. I believe he is minus 110 to submit Julian Erosa. So that is what the books are saying is the play. He doesn't, 4 knockouts versus 6 is actually something that is just now catching my eye here. But I don't think Erosa, I don't know. If you want to lay off this fight, that's fine. I do think there is value here in the distance at almost 2-1, 1.5 to 1, because again, Erosa is no slouch in the ground, right? So if they're predicting Padilla to basically, 5 times out of 10, he's going to submit Julian Erosa. And Julian Erosa has never been submitted, and he has 12 wins. That tells me Julian Erosa can hang on the ground. So I don't exactly love. Let me just check and see that I'm not going absolutely bat banana crazy. Method of victory, I was going crazy. It was another fight that had him. Okay, this makes me feel a lot better. I think it's the next fight that had that odds. So again, while we're here, okay, Erosa by submit. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. 290, 3. Okay, yeah. Sorry if you couldn't see that earlier. So I stand corrected. I apologize. Next video, I may have like a notes category over here. It might help me stay a little bit more in tune to some of these ideas. But distance here, I think at these odds is pretty good for the fact that I don't think Padilla is going to knock him out, and they're not typically getting submitted, finished any other way. Okay. This was the fight I was mixing up. So you guys don't think I'm absolutely bananas. Where's this fight? I do not like the way FanDuel does this. There seems to be no rhyme or reason. Okay, here's all the Saturdays. There we go. Okay, method of victory. Here you go. Vieira by submission is minus 110 here. I was just a fight early. Okay, so in this fight, we have Cody Brundage and Rodolfo Vieira. And we have Vieira as a pretty sizable favorite in this fight. Now, this is what caught my eye. Again, Brundage has not been finished by submission. So for a minus 110, for a guy who has, again, 3 wins by submission, he's no slouch. Not as much as a not slouch as a Rosa is, but still not a slouch. So I don't think there's value in Vieira by submission here. Now, if I look at this and I see this 7 and it stands out, I may say, yeah, that could happen. But if we're talking strictly about value, I don't see it at minus odds. What I do see for value, and value only, and this is that fight I was talking about where I picked 2 different things, is Vieira decision at plus 500. If he's not going to submit him, he's not knocking him out, okay? Vieira is not knocking out Cody Brundage, period, okay? So if he is a huge favorite, and I don't think he's going to submit him, naturally I'm going to go over to a decision pick. At plus 500, that looks pretty good. Now, the way that I see this not happening, obviously, is if he submits him. Obviously, if Brundage can handle the situation, handle the grapples, and turns into a decision for himself. But the most likely, I think, outcome other than a Vieira decision or submission is a Brundage knockout at 460. Guy who has knocked out, I want to say, 3 of his last 4 fights. I should check that, right? Because I gotta not lie to you guys. Are you kidding me? I've already lied to you enough today. So he lost his last fight, then he knocked out, then he won by submission, lost, submission. This is why I didn't think he would get submitted. He can hang in the submissions, all right? So I guess he does not have as many knockouts lately. We are going to see this fighter on the same card. Interesting. They've been fighting on the same cards back-to-back here. So, again, how I think this fight will ultimately go is Vieira will try to submit. Brundage will be able to defend enough, but with Vieira having the more ground control time and top position, we see him ride it out to a decision. I just think 500 is too good a value to look away from. So that is why I am leaning to that. The co-main? Yes. Co-main event is these 2 dudes. When 2 vowels go walking, the first one goes cat guys. Baralo and dude, these 2 dudes are fighting. That's all you need to know, okay? I'll learn their names better when Joe Rogan says it on Saturday. So, huge number, right? 13 wins by knockout, but interesting number. 3 losses by submission versus 3 wins by submission. Now, when you look at this, right, usually you can look at these things and you can kind of guess who the favorite is. When I look at this, okay, 4-0, 3-0, 6-1, 13-1, 1-3, 4-1. To me, I say this is a fairly even fight. When I go to the odds, though, biggest favorite on the card. So that's interesting. And the way that he wins, in my opinion, is likely a submission. Now, this does worry me. The fact that they have had 12 3-round fights. So that is well within the realm of possibilities. But his sub, for a guy who's lost 3 times by submission and likes to go for knockouts, I don't think he is going to stand around and box him. So his sub, however, he catches him, right? He puts people out. He puts people away. So this number 460, I think is pretty generous for a guy with 13 wins. Now again, never been knocked out, but it's always a first for everything. So these are 2 I like, but if this goes to a decision, I wouldn't be shocked. So temper your expectations. Be careful with your unit sizing on here. What are the rounds? I mean, they like the fight to be finished quickly as well. If you look here, I mean, over 1.5, 155, but they're saying, it's more likely than not that it's finished before 2.5. So it is what it is, right? Careful with that. All right, final fight in the game is a 5-round fight. Song Yadong and Ricky Simone. Um, I don't love it. I last week I felt good. Okay, this is my sheet. Last week I've cleaned it up a little bit. I kind of gave it a trial run. I liked Sergi last week um, in a round one knockout. Um, didn't happen, but he did get the knockout. So, some of these main events I feel so good about. This one I don't. Song Yadong has dropped two straight, and when you see a good fighter, and I'll call Song Yadong a good fighter. When you see a good fighter, a popular fighter, lose to, they're usually throwing somebody who they can beat, which makes me nervous here because I like Ricky Simone to beat him, and he is the favorite. So I find this fight a bit bizarre, and so my I probably should switch it over to best bet, but put it in round because that's what it's betting. To start round three at minus 200, it's heavily juiced. I don't love the fact that I'm telling you to bet at minus 200, but it's what I see as the most likely situation. 5-round fights for smaller guys always start slow. And so I like that. But if I had to pick, I do think Simone wins the fight. So these are my picks. These are my suggestions. Again, quarter unit, half unit, full unit. If you want to play that game, be selective, pick and choose. I'm going to try to do this every week. So if you guys would not mind hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel so I can feed my family, dropping a comment, letting me know where I've gone wrong, what you like. Maybe you like a parlay here, okay? Let me know. And we can start building this community up and talking every week about these things. That would be awesome for me. So best of luck this weekend. Again, I'll shrink this down here so you can kind of get a full look at this card. Screenshot it, okay? I watched some different guys talking about different things, and they have charts like this. It's helpful for me just to take a screenshot and kind of look at the data. I don't do this just for me. I want to help you guys out. So if you want to use this info, by all means, do so. So thanks again. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandma. She might like the video.